Hi kids, I'm back for chapter 4 of the Boxcar Children. Chapter 4, The Tin Box. It seemed a long time to the 4 children before Joe and Alice came home, but at last they drove up to the front door in a new station wagon. That's a kind of car. It's Joe! He's got a new car! Benny ran down the steps. Oh, Joe, why did you buy a big car like that when there are only 2 of you? Guess, said Joe. He jumped out and gave his hand to his beautiful young wife. Why do you think he bought such a big car? Then the other children ran out to see Joe and Alice. Everyone was laughing and talking at once. They took bags and boxes and went into the house. Watch barked and jumped around to show how glad he was to see Joe again. I bet you got a station wagon so we could go in it. That's right, said Alice, smiling at Benny. Won't we have a lot of fun in the station wagon? We know where to go first. Want us to tell you? Children, do let Alice sit down for 1 minute, said Mr. Alden as he came out into the hall. You have lots of time, you know. Come in, Alice, and let them talk. But the children could not wait. Before they knew it, they were telling them all about the mystery of the little yellow house. What a story, said Joe. I've wondered about that house my whole life. I'd like to go inside. We waited for you two, said Henry. Will you both go? Asked Jessie. Well, of course we will, said Alice. Joe laughed. Well, it looks as if we're going to go right back to Surprise Island. Today? Yes, today, said Joe and Alice together. Mr. Alden laughed. Let's have lunch first. You're right, Grandfather, said Violet. Alice ought to see all the presents in the house, beautiful dishes and all the wedding things. They came after the wedding too, Alice. And there's lots of food. It's all in tin cans, and there's a whole ham and chickens. But won't you eat lunch with us today? Of course we will, said Joe. You can show us the tin cans when we come back from the island. How will that be? Fine. We can go to the dock in the new car. I guess Captain Daniel will be surprised to see you again, and us. I guess so, laughed Joe. We just said goodbye. Soon it was time for lunch. Henry was thinking what to take to the yellow house. What would you take to the yellow house? He said to Jessie, I shall take my tools, and he sat beside her at the table. Maybe we'll need them. I can't think of anything else. Can you? Joe said, a flashlight. There aren't any lights there. Oh, thank you, Jessie said. I'm glad you don't think we're silly to go, Joe. Indeed, I don't. It sounds very interesting. Alice thinks so, too. You sure did pick a pretty girl. Thank you, Benny, said Alice, laughing. Is there room for me to come too, asked Mr. Alden, to everyone's surprise. Room for you, said Violet, going over to her grandfather. There's always room for you, Grandfather. Just the same, they were all surprised and delighted that Mr. Alden wanted to go. There are chairs for you to sit in. I saw them through the window. I wish we were there this very minute. In about an hour, Benny had his wish. The whole family left the boat at the dock on Surprise Island and now stood at the front steps of the little yellow house. They went up the 4 wooden steps. Mr. Alden himself opened the door. They went in the front room and looked around. There was a table in the middle of the room. Old papers were on it. There's someone looking through it. You think that's Henry or Benny? There was a fireplace with a brick chimney painted white on one side of the room. There was a desk on the other side. Everything was covered in dust. This is the very room where Bill sat reading the paper, Joe, said Henry. The queer grating noise came from this room, said Jessie. Now, began Henry, let's look around and see what could make that grating sound. The drawer in the table? Asked Alice. The drawer's in the desk, suggested Mr. Alden. "The boards in the floor," said Jessie. "The chimney." Everyone looked at the strong brick chimney and smiled at the little boy, but Henry said kindly, "That's right, Benny. We'll have to look at every single brick." "Yes, you look at every brick," said Jessie. "You remember the police looked down the chimney with a light, right, Benny?" "Yeah, I remember, but they looked at the floorboards too and all the other things you said." "Well, that's right too," said Joe. "Now, what's first?" "The table drawer," said Henry, pulling it out. "Not much here." So it was Henry. "Not much in this drawer." "It grates when you pull it, though," said Alice. There were 2 pens in the drawer, 2 fish hooks, and an old paintbrush. "The paint," shouted Henry. "I don't think this is paint, though," said Joe. He smelled the paintbrush. "I think this is whitewash." Whitewash is a mixture of paint and water. Everyone was excited. "Maybe we'll find something new after all, Grandfather," said Jessie. "Did the police know it was whitewash?" "No, I don't think so," said Mr. Alden. "They would have taken the paintbrush with them if they thought it was a clue. The police did not work as well in those days as they do now. You can take that drawer to pieces if you want. Something might be hidden in the cracks." Henry tapped the drawer with his hammer and soon took off the sides of the drawer, but there was nothing there. "The desk next," said Mr. Alden. "There are 2 drawers in that. Maybe a secret drawer," said Joe. They took out both drawers and put them on the table. "A pen, some old writing paper, that's all," said Henry. "Now, let's look at the floorboards," said Jessie. "We can take up the rugs." There were 2 small rugs. Joe looked at them carefully, then he rolled them up and put them on a chair. The whole family went to work. Mr. Alden sat and watched. Each person took a stick and looked in every crack, up and down the room on their hands and knees. At last Joe said, "All done. I don't think these floorboards have been moved. I don't think the clue is here." "Well then, it's time for my chimney. Every brick." "That will take days," said Henry, laughing. "First we'll tap the bricks, Benny. You all listen and see if any brick sounds different than the others." "Let me tap. I thought of it." "Well," said Joe, "let him tap, Henry. Let me show you, Ben. Tap like this." Joe struck a brick lightly, once or twice. Benny got down on the floor and he started with the first brick. Went his hammer. Then he took the next brick. He tapped just the way Joe had shown him. At last the family sat down smiling. There were so many bricks. Suddenly Jessie jumped up. "I think that one sounds different." She got down beside Benny. "I don't," said Henry. "Tap it again, Benny." Went the hammer. "Maybe not. I thought it did at first," said Jessie. In a few minutes, Violet said, "Listen again to that one. That one sounds different to me." "It's right over the first one, Violet." "Yeah, it's right over the one that Jessie heard." But it didn't sound different to anyone else. "Go on, my boy," said Mr. Alden, leaning forward. "Keep on tapping." The children all looked up at their grandfather. They were surprised to see that he was excited and very white. Benny began on another row of bricks, and then it was Mr. Alden himself who said, "Stop there. Tap again." Joe cried, "That last one is different. Give me that hammer for a minute, Ben." But Joe did not use the hammer. He just looked at the brick. Benny was looking at it too. "Whitewash. Whitewash." "Yes," said Joe, "whitewash. I do believe that brick has been taken out and put back again." "Can you take it out, Joe?" Alice asked excitedly. "I'm going to try," answered Joe. "We don't want the whole chimney to come down, though." Here's the screwdriver. Just what I needed, cried Joe. Yes, this brick has certainly been taken out. He put the screwdriver at the edge of the brick and tapped it. Out it came, dried whitewash. What did I tell ya? New whitewash, not like the old. More dried whitewash fell out with every tap. This certainly has been painted to look like the other brick, said Joe, but the whitewash is different. Now pull it out, Joe! Joe took a hold of the brick and pulled. It made a queer grating noise as he worked it out. At last it came out and fell to the floor. Look in the hole! Look in the hole, yelled Benny. There's a letter in the hole! Joe could hardly believe what he saw, but there was a letter. He took it out and read it. What in the world does it mean, Uncle James? He asked as he handed it to Mr. Alden. Read it out loud, cried the children. Mr. Alden read, Dear Bill, thanks for the money. I can make it 3 times as much money if you'll help me. Some friends of mine know how. Meet me at your little house in Maine, Bear Trail. Then you can pay Mr. A and get your part of the rest for sure. Look in the tin box. Hide this. Signed S.M. Well, my dears, said Mr. Alden, now we have a real mystery. Jessie said, and we don't know any more than we did. Bear Trail, said Benny. I wonder where Bear Trail is. There's the letter. And that is the end of chapter 4. The next chapter is called The Next Move. And that will be chapter 5 next time we get together. Be safe.